the best month for Bitcoin dominance on average, right? On average, is October. And it's not even close. I think the reason the cycle feels different to people is because altcoins haven't performed. But it's relevant to remind people that a lot of times the cycle is like this, right? Like Bitcoin leads the bull market. And by the time the altcoins start really outperforming Bitcoin, that's usually a sign that the cycle's over. Normally, dominance bottoms out in September, especially in bull markets. I mean, even in 2020, it bottomed out at like basically the exact same level, right? The exact same level. And also it found a low in like the month of September. In 2017, you can see it carved out a low in the month of September, and then it rallied all the way back up, to like high 60%. Last cycle, it rallied into the 70% range. All I'm saying is a lot of people want dominance to just go down now. What I'm saying is it's going to go up first before it goes down.
After months of hype, record-setting rallies, and endless speculation about new all-time highs, the mood in the market has shifted dramatically. What was once driven by greed and euphoria now feels heavy, cautious, and ice-cold. According to crypto analyst Benjamin Cowen, the signals are undeniable. Beneath the surface of Bitcoin's powerful moves lies the reality that this bull market is running on fumes. The symptoms are classic. Investor excitement is fading, retail participation is flat, and the once roaring social buzz has turned eerily quiet. Instead of a stampede of newcomers chasing the top, there's fatigue, exactly the kind of silence that often marks the beginning of the end. Cowen warns that the cycle is now at a breaking point. His focus is on a critical metric, the 50-week Simple Moving Average, SMA. Every Bitcoin bull market in history has ended once the price closed below this line for 2 consecutive weeks. Right now, that key level sits around $99,000, and if Bitcoin loses it, the message will be clear. The bull run is finished. What's more chilling is that retail euphoria, the spark that usually fuels a final blow-off top, never truly showed up this cycle. Without that mania, the market's exhaustion suggests the top may already be in, or that any last rally will fall far short of the fireworks many were hoping for. Either way, Cowen's verdict is blunt. The window for easy gains is closing, and the freeze has begun. The bull market's fire is fading, the smart money is preparing its exit, and those who fail to adapt risk being trapped in the cold. For anyone still clinging to blind optimism, Cowen's warning is clear. The market is about to go ice cold. Stick around as we bring you more clips from Benjamin Cowen's sharp market analysis. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and enable notifications for more in-depth content. Thanks for joining us again. Enjoy the rest of the video.
I think we're getting close to the end of it, but if you measure the ROI from the low, from the high, from the halving, we'll look at ROI from we'll start from the low. Certainly, we are we're getting pretty far along here. Hopefully we can get another move into Q4. Normally Bitcoin tops in Q4. So if you look at all prior market cycle tops, the tops were in Q4 of the post-halving year. And so there's a chance that this time will be no different and that we could get another Q4 top. I think right now we are experiencing general seasonal weakness by Bitcoin. It's very common around, sort of late Q3 to get this weakness. So it makes a lot of sense. One of the things, I don't know if I mentioned it on the last time we did a video or not, but one of the things that it felt like we needed was for Ethereum to hit all-time highs for the cycle to feel more complete. Now, it did that. It hit new all-time highs since we last spoke, and it did so after Ethereum went home. But I still think there's a little bit more left in the tank for Ethereum. And so if there's more left in the tank for Ethereum, I think there's probably a little bit more left for Bitcoin. We'll see. But back in April, we were talking when Ethereum was down here, right? And now Ethereum has run to new all-time highs. But, on the first approach, it made sense to assume we would be rejected by it. And just because you have all the buyers from over here that are going to want to break even, right? They're done waiting. They need to get out. They have other things to worry about. But right now, I mean, I think Bitcoin has gone into this correction because some of the frothier stuff started moving a little bit too much. And you're likely going to witness Ethereum check in here with its 21-week EMA. And then after that, it should go to new all-time highs. What I would say generally is that as we get into Q4, I think it would be prudent for people to start thinking about, the highs could actually be the high for a little while. It doesn't mean that Bitcoin won't ever go past it. It probably will next cycle, but it's just something to think about going into 2026. And so just don't become complacent. And some of the indicators, I mean, I use risk metrics and whatnot to navigate things, but some other interesting metrics to try to give you an idea of where we are in this cycle. Look at the 50-week moving average. As long as we're trending above that, then there's reasons to be optimistic. Just like back over here when we talked in April, Bitcoin held the prior cycle high. Right now we're testing, the cycle's highs from back in January. But I would still say until Bitcoin gets a weekly close, 2 weekly closes, because 1 weekly close won't do it. 2 weekly closes below the 50-week moving average, then we have to accept the cycle's over. Because historically, that's always when the cycle was over, on a couple of weekly closes below that 50-week moving average. You can see this entire cycle hasn't happened, right? We've had some wicks, no weekly closes. Right now, the 50-week SMA is 99K. So it's going to be 100K, which makes it kind of easy, because I can just sit here and say to you that from starting now for the next 6 months, whenever we get 2 weekly closes below the 50-week moving average, that's probably a sign that the top is in. The final moves historically have been in Q4. Once we get into Q4, it's reasonable to start thinking about cycle tops. And by the way, when you look at the ROI from the low, that's one metric. If you measure it from the peak and you go peak to peak, you can also see we're getting kind of far into the cycle. And if you measure it from the halving, you can see that we're getting kind of far into the cycle. So I just think that it's been a great cycle for Bitcoin, even though I feel like for some people it doesn't feel like it. But it has been a good cycle. Hopefully we can finish strong. And if you don't time the top exactly, and you're wondering, if you're looking for confluence, just remember on weekly closes below the 50-week SMA, no matter where the top was, just be willing to accept the cycle's over whenever that happens. I think the reason the cycle feels different to people is because altcoins haven't performed. But it's relevant to remind people that a lot of times the cycle is like this, right? Like Bitcoin leads the bull market. And by the time the altcoins start really outperforming Bitcoin, that's usually a sign that the cycle's over. So, I know there's been a lot of people calling for alt season and whatnot for the last few years, but you have to remember, like when alt season happens, assuming that it does, when it happens, it's a sign that the cycle is likely ending. So it's one of those things where, like, be careful what you wish for, because if you do see Bitcoin dominance crash in Q4, I don't think it's going to crash in early Q4. I think dominance is going to go up in October, but you could see it crash a little bit later on in Q4. If that happens, that's your warning. That's your warning sign right there, that you need to get out of altcoins. You can hold Bitcoin through the bear market if you want to, and just if you want to hunker down in that. But usually when after dominance crashes, is you want to be running for the hills away from the altcoin market. So just keep that in mind. Again, I know the cycle feels different. One of the reasons the cycle feels different is because a lot of people were here last cycle, like in 2021, where altcoins were outperforming Bitcoin for like a year or something ridiculous. But we had a lot of QE and we had low rates. This cycle is structurally and fundamentally more similar to the 2017 cycle, right? It's more similar to the 2017 cycle. And in the 2017 cycle, we still saw Bitcoin dominance getting rallies even in Q4 of the post-halving year. In fact, that was when altcoins struggled a lot in October of the post-halving year, and they ended up bottoming out in like November, December, and then we had alt season. So just remember, the cycle is actually playing out pretty normally if you incorporate diminishing returns. Altcoins have not joined in on the rally in the way that people would have expected. But remember, most altcoin gains are usually concentrated within a 1 to 2 month period, and then that's it. And then people spend the next 4 years thinking that that's the norm when it's really just something that happens like, for a month or two every 4 years. I think that in order to get optimistic about an alt season, we first need to see Bitcoin convincingly bottom within the next few weeks. We need to see it rally, and we need to see Bitcoin dominance rally with it. If those things can happen, then it would pave the way for altcoins to outperform Bitcoin, sometime in the November-December timeframe.
Benjamin Cowen lays out a clear roadmap for what to expect next. He emphasizes that Bitcoin typically peaks in the fourth quarter of the post-halving year. However, he expects Bitcoin dominance, its share of the total crypto market, to surge first, particularly throughout October. This means Bitcoin could rally, while most altcoins struggle. This surge in dominance is actually a necessary step. It sets the stage for a potential final altcoin season. Still, that event would be the ultimate warning sign that the cycle is coming to a close. Cowen is also watching the risk metric, a tool that measures market euphoria. He mentioned that this cycle has not seen the extreme levels of excitement seen at past tops. If that euphoria does not arrive by the end of the year, it probably will not happen. His strategy is practical. As we move deeper into the fourth quarter, it is prudent to start taking profits. He suggests converting altcoin holdings back to Bitcoin before mid-January 2026. The final step is deciding how much Bitcoin to hold through the ensuing bear market, a decision based on one's conviction that history will repeat itself. Let's watch more clips from Cowen's interview to gain more insight.
Normally, dominance bottoms out in September, especially in bull markets. I mean, even in 2020, it bottomed out at like basically the exact same level, right? The exact same level. And also it found a low in like the month of September. In 2017, you can see it carved out a low in the month of September, and then it rallied all the way back up, to like high 60%. Last cycle, it rallied into the 70% range. All I'm saying is a lot of people want dominance to just go down now. What I'm saying is it's going to go up first before it goes down, right? So I think path is important. And so that's what I think people should watch for. So what I'm looking for confluence of my views, and it's already playing out. What I was looking for is that as Bitcoin corrects, you want to see Bitcoin dominance go up. And you're seeing that, right? Like Bitcoin is corrected. You're seeing Bitcoin dominance go up. I don't know exactly where the low is going to be, but whenever Bitcoin catches a bid and starts going back up, dominance should continue to go back up with it. Okay, so that's what I'm looking for. As long as that plays out, then I still feel comfortable, with the views I've expressed. As far as the exact levels for dominance, I don't even necessarily have a specific level in mind. It's more of a time thing. I think Bitcoin dominance is going to go up until early November. Okay. It could get a brief correction in November and then maybe go up again. But I think that it makes sense to be bullish on Bitcoin dominance for the rest of September and all of October. In fact, October, since you were talking about, like the best or the worst day of the year for Bitcoin was like September 26th. The best month for Bitcoin dominance on average, is October. And it's not even close. On average, Bitcoin dominance goes up 5% in October. Now, there's a big standard deviation there, so it doesn't necessarily have to go up. But you could argue that to within one standard deviation, Bitcoin dominance, 4.8% plus or minus 5.8. So to the downside, you're looking at like worst case scenario. I mean, obviously, worst case scenario is a lot worse than what I'm going to say, but like realistically, to within one standard deviation, the odds are that Bitcoin dominance, it could drop 1%, but it could also go up as high as 10.6%. Okay, so if you were to look at that spread, let's say down 1% would still put it at 58, but up 10% would put it basically back near the prior highs. And a lot of the prior bull markets, when they finished, you saw Bitcoin dominance getting that final rally kind of into the end of the year. And so I think there's a really good chance you're going to see Bitcoin dominance get one final rally for the cycle for the next, let's call it 6 weeks. So that's how you set alt season up, is to get a rally by Bitcoin where dominance goes up and people really capitulate their alts. and then you could actually get it. But again, there is no guarantee. I mean, a lot of what I said has to play out for me to even develop the alt season view. I've faded the alt season view because I know that Bitcoin leads the bull market, and if you're calling for alt season in the pre-halving year and in the halving year and in the first half of the post-halving year, those people are basically saying this time is different. And because when alt season happens, the cycle's over. Yeah, I mean, right now Bitcoin's sitting at the 21-week EMA. The 50 weeks a little bit lower, but I mean, it's still holding for now. And I think the window of weakness for Bitcoin is just the rest of this week and maybe going into next week. And then hopefully after that, it can pretty soon find a low and hopefully start to build off of it. And that's why I feel like as we get into Q4, don't become complacent, because it's going to be a mind game. You know, I mean, no one wants to be the one holding the bag, right? By the way, here's the risk metric. This is one of the metrics I use. And what's really interesting this cycle is that we've had levels of interest, but we haven't had euphoria like in prior cycles. So that's really interesting that it hasn't played out like that. I mean, I guess it doesn't necessarily have to become euphoric, but hopefully it does. What I would say is if there's still no euphoria by the end of the year, then there probably won't be. But the time frame for euphoria to arrive is, in Q4. That's when it historically arrives. So hopefully we see it happen. I mean, and some things, I mean, Ethereum got a little bit more euphoric. It was actually, I can't remember exactly how high it went, but it got into like that 0.7. I feel like it went all the way up to like 0.7 something risk. So yeah, like near 0.75. So that one got kind of high. I think Ethereum will get another move, but yeah, these are the metrics I typically use. The fear and greed index is basically when you get to a point where the fear and greed index is low and you're not getting rallies, that's usually a bad sign. So with the fear and greed index coming in low like it is, hopefully we start to see Bitcoin pick up soon. Because if Bitcoin can't, then it might be a sign that things are starting to turn.
For Benjamin Cowen, the final chapter of this bull market is all about mind games. Everyone is watching the calendar, expecting a Q4 top. This collective anticipation could itself trigger a volatile and deceptive finale. Investors might take profits early, causing a pullback that lures people back in before a more devastating drop. Cowen stresses that navigating this phase requires discipline, not hope. He considers closing below the 50-week simple moving average for 2 consecutive weeks a significant indicator. When that happens, it is time to accept that the party is over, regardless of where the exact top was. The idea of diminishing returns in every Bitcoin cycle brings with it a strange form of comfort. Each bull run has delivered smaller percentage gains than the one before. While that might disappoint thrill seekers, it also means the pain of the crash could be softer than history's worst. The euphoria of 2017 was unmatched. Meanwhile, it ended in an 84% collapse. The 2021 peak still resulted in heavy losses, but the decline was 77%. This time, Benjamin Cowen projects a drawdown of around 70%. That number is still harsh, but it is less devastating when compared to the past. If Bitcoin does manage to climb toward $100,000, a 70% pullback would suggest a floor near $50,000, a level far higher than the bottoms of older cycles. For long-term holders, this is not a reason to celebrate. Still, it is a reminder that survival is about planning, not guessing. The real aim is not to find the exact top, but to know when the music slows and protect your capital before the silence falls. The message is clear. The Bitcoin bull market is on borrowed time. The seasonal patterns, dominant cycles, and key moving averages all point to a conclusion in the coming months. Benjamin Cowen's analysis provides a disciplined framework to avoid the pain of a prolonged crypto winter. The smart money is not waiting for the top to be called. It is preparing its exit now. For those who are listening, the signs are all there. The only question is, will you heed the warning before it is too late? Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.